Assalamu alaikum. Peace be on all. This is Moel from the Philosophical Muslims channel and the Moel channel on YouTube. Today I would like to discuss something else. Instead of atheism, I would like to discuss Christianity. If you haven't noticed on my Facebook posts, the last post, I negated the atonement based on my own philosophical reasonings, which are based on an epistemic foundation nonetheless, because I like to operate based on an epistemic foundation. I don't operate based on the temptation of my own ego. No. It has to be rational. It has to be coherent. It has to be justifiable. Okay? And that's why I use an epistemic foundation, so I can provide an epistemic justification. So in my post about the atonement, I was negating it by saying basically it's two things in one. Like they say, God is the Son and the Father and the Holy Ghost in the Trinity. And then they say God, the Father sacrificed His Son or His only begotten Son as salvation, atonement, which is suicide and filicide at the same time, which doesn't make sense. And a lot of Christians, lay Christians that I met online, okay, appealing to emotions and psychology, not epistemology and philosophy, they got upset and they said this sounds disrespectful. No, it's not disrespectful, because you have already committed blasphemy, which is beyond disrespectful. When you say God killed himself from an Islamic lens, my epistemic foundation. Okay? So don't come up to me, because it's a double-edged sword when you say this is disrespectful. It's not disrespectful. You're being a blasphemer, saying God killed himself. That's suicide. If it's not suicide, then give me a definition. Tell me what it is. Don't just come up to me and tell me, don't say it's suicide, don't say it's filicide, don't say that, be quiet. That's psychological manipulation. The same way they manipulated you to believe that God became a man. Okay, so don't come up to me and tell me it's disrespectful when you're blaspheming and being utterly disrespectful against God. Not just me, it's a blasphemy when you say God killed His only Son or sacrificed. That's not, what is a sacrifice? It's like you kill someone. You kill someone. That's what it is. To sacrifice. You take a life. When you take a life, that's causing death. That's killing. That's the definition. At the end of the day, it's a sacrifice. Because you took a life. It's not like you sacrifice an arm and he's still alive. No, you sacrifice a life. And it's his own life. Being omniscient. And within that context, if God is omniscient of the outcome, then it's suicide. What else? Negate what I'm saying then. Don't just say this is disrespectful, be quiet. It's like you're like a feminist, screaming foul without justification. Just screaming foul. Psychological manipulation. Appealing to emotions, trying to beguile the audience while being bombastic. There's no difference between an atheist and a Christian. I'm going to be honest. It's all based on psychology. And I'm talking about the lay Christians and the lay atheists. Nonetheless, even the academic atheists, I don't know the operating based. Is it all going to be science? It's still psychology. And most academic atheists are atheists because of Christianity. Nonetheless, the reason this phenomena of atheism emerged is because they were operating based on the wrong axioms. They were operating based on the wrong axioms, okay? They were operating based on this dogma of the Trinity. God became flesh, incarnated. The Word became flesh, and that's the Son. And then the Holy Ghost sounds like something you took from Scandinavian ideology. Paganism, polytheism, Odin, Thor, Zeus, Hercules, demigods. But no, he's not a demigod. He's fully God. 100% God, 100% man. I don't know how, but it's a mystery. Imagine you make a concoction a fabrication about God. انظر كيف يفترون على الله الكذب وكفى به إثما مبينا. Look how they blatantly fabricate a lie about Allah, and it's enough to be an open sin. That's what y'all been doing, and you want to come up to me and be like, you're disrespectful, saying God committed suicide, he sacrificed himself. This is psychology, it doesn't make sense. You're just being bombastic, sophistry at its best, trying to act emotional. So I can be emotional too. I can give a speech like Hitler, just to move the crowd. No, listen to what I have to say from a philosophical lens. Put on your philosophical glasses and smoke your philosophical pipe, if that's how you want to say it. Don't come up to me and tell me I'm being disrespectful when you're the one blaspheming, saying God killed himself, sacrificed himself, committed suicide, filicide, in the same sentence. Gibberish. It's not even gibberish, it's nonsensical. It's nonsense upon stilts. Senseless, pointless nonsense. You have this guy, William Lane Craig, okay, this academic. I salute him when he negates the atheists. And not because he's using Ghazalian arguments. Yeah, he has to use Islamic arguments at the end of the day, because Islam makes the most coherence. Islam provides us with a coherent worldview and a justified epistemic foundation, an epistemic justification. Not this Trinity, and not to mention when they come with this blasé attitude, the Christians and the atheists, especially when they discuss with me. Because they don't like what I say. Maybe they don't like my attitude. But I have to come with this attitude, because being not nice doesn't cut it sometimes. When I'm trying to be nice with someone, they undermine me. Okay, you want to undermine me? I'll get it. I'll unleash the pit bull. You know what I'm saying? Listen, the bottom line is this: you guys are operating based on the wrong axioms, incoherent, and the best explanation you have, which is not even an explanation, it's a mystery. And then you have this because let's be frank, it's a white man's narrative at the end of the day. Christianity is from European descent, and it was amalgamated with paganism and polytheism. Okay, they amalgamated monotheism with polytheism and said, look, they're trying to salvage monotheism from polytheism. It doesn't make sense, just to come up with something when they have nothing at the end, because they want to presuppose that the Bible is true. Based on what? That's a different discussion, the Bible. And then you have this psychological state where they assume they're better than us. I'm going to be frank. I mean, let's be honest, the hegemony is a white hegemony at the end of the day. And I'm not trying to be a racist by saying white this and white that, or black this and black that, brown this, brown that. No, this is how it is. It's a white hegemony, and we all know that when the superior nation is in power, everyone looks up to it. And that's why now atheism is also emerging in the so-called Middle East. And I say so-called Middle East because it was coined by a white man, an American man nonetheless. So you have these people with inferiority complex. But okay, I understand if an atheist becomes if a European becomes an atheist. That makes sense, because Christianity doesn't make sense. It makes sense for a while to become an atheist, but then you have to now come back to your senses and realize that there is a God to provide coherence. Not stay, because at the end of the day, we all work based on presuppositions, all of us. If you're an atheist, you're going to presuppose physicalism, especially if you adhere to scientism. If you adhere to scientism, and I say this again, scientism, not science, you will presuppose physicalism. Even if someone tells you, how do you justify your rational faculties, you'll presuppose physicalism again. You'll say it's based on the brain. Okay, how did the brain form itself to cause rise to consciousness and rationality? It's based on physical processes. It doesn't make sense. So you have to come back to your senses and realize there is a mystical aspect, not mysterious, and mystical. There's a difference. Something mystical is intuitive, like free will is mystical. We don't know what it is. Okay, consciousness is mystical. Okay, we don't know what it is through physical processes. If you want to assume physicalism, be my guest, but you become insane. There's nothing intrinsic then. If I crack someone's skull open, she is an arrangement, a rearrangement of matter, nothing else. Not to digress, but back, because I went to atheism for a bit, but because I was saying, atheism was the byproduct of Christianity. Okay, it emerged because of this nonsensical dogma at the end of the day. So now we have people with inferiority complex because everyone operates based on the temptation of their ego and psychology, the temptation of the psyche. We have people in the Middle East becoming atheists due to inferiority complex. Okay, looking up to the hegemony, looking up to the white man. And that's what it is at the end of the day. Because let's be honest, even the black man was stripped from his identity, was stripped naked from his identity when he was taken from Africa. And then they didn't know their identity, so they just followed the hegemony. That's why you have people like Malcolm X waking up. This doesn't make sense. The Trinity. Why is Jesus white? Yeah, come on, man. Let's not discuss why he's white. It doesn't matter. We're making him white so people can, reflect. He can be Chinese if you want him to, but he wasn't Chinese and he wasn't white. He most likely looked like me, if anything. So why don't you worship a brown man now? No, but the psychological state is going to change. We won't feel superior as a nation, as a European nation. We'll be worshiping the brown man. Doesn't make sense. We gotta make him white so he can look like us. And that's what it is, it's psychology. Christianity is based on psychology, just like atheism. The only thing that makes sense is Islam. Because if you're in a court of law, a judge is not going to judge you based on something that is incoherent. I mean, some judges are prejudiced, nonetheless, and racist, and they delve into the absurd. But if a judge is a just judge, she'll judge based on her or his God-given rational faculties. It's not based on this Trinitarian thinking. When William Lane Craig was asked in a debate, in a Q&A session, a debate between him and an atheist, why don't you believe in the flying spaghetti monster? The questioner had the right to ask that question to a Christian. Okay, not to a Muslim. Because the problem is this: Christians and atheists, they do not know the opposition's worldview to negate it. They come with this blasé, arrogant attitude and assume, based on a preconception, that they already have the superior ideology, that the man they're negating is inferior. Why? Because he's not white, most likely. Because he's brown, black, Chinese. So look at this, what these people believe in, and they laugh. It's the same psychological state as the people of Noah or the Israelites. They had an inferiority complex. They copied the hegemony, ancient Egypt. Now we have Saudi Arabians copying the hegemony. United States, atheism, bro, liberalism, hedonism, utilitarianism, all this nonsense. William Lane Craig was asked, why is the flying spaghetti monster not God? Why don't you believe in him? William Lane Craig had to use an Islamic negation because he has nothing as a Christian. Wallah, he has nothing as a Christian. He had to use an Islamic negation. And William Lane Craig is a line in front of the atheist when he uses Islamic arguments, but he's a pussycat in front of Muslims when he's trying to basically, or in front of anyone, matter of fact, not just Muslims, when he's trying to argue from the Bible, because he has nothing, no epistemic foundation nor justification. The flying spaghetti monster is a fallacy of equivocation. Jesus is a fallacy of equivocation from an Islamic lens. It violates the laws of logic, the law of non-contradiction, the law of excluded middle, and the law of identity. Okay, so the flying spaghetti monster cannot be God. Jesus cannot be God. Fallacy of equivocation. That's what William Lane Craig said when he said it was a fallacy of equivocation when he was asked by the atheist. Fallacy of equivocation. And then he went on by saying the flying spaghetti monster is based on Italian cuisine. You have to be familiar with Italian cuisine and meatballs. Spaghetti and meatballs. You have to be familiar with it. So it's culturally bound to Italians. Jesus was culturally bound to the Jews, and he's a human being who most likely looked like the Jews of his time. Okay, especially a man from the Middle East. He didn't look Italian. The Italians were not yet colonized, if you want to call it that, by the Muslim expansion to mix with the Arabs. If I'm not mistaken, I'm not a historian, I'm just assuming. Nonetheless, not to digress, the flying spaghetti monster does not provide a foundation and does not provide a coherent worldview. Okay? The flying spaghetti monster is not foundational and does not provide a coherent worldview. The flying spaghetti monster and Jesus are equivalent if you were to basically compare them to God. They're both physical within this reality. God cannot be his creation. Okay? So the flying spaghetti monster is based on information transfer. If you're a red man, Aboriginal in Canada, in the United States, North America, an Aboriginal in Australia, Polynesian, Philippines, any place on earth, as an Aboriginal, if your innate disposition is not clouded, you'll automatically believe in one God. And you wouldn't know anything about Jesus because Jesus is not innate. Someone has to come and tell you. It has to be based on information transfer. Okay, so this is pretty much it in a nutshell. So when someone comes and tells me, okay, the God I serve is way beyond our comprehension. Okay, yeah, you serve a God, so you're a servant of God. You're Abdullah. You just admitted to be Abdullah, a slave of God. But at the same time, you said the same thing as a Muslim would say. So you haven't provided anything. It's a false assumption when you use it against the Muslims. You're assuming that the Muslims understand God completely. No, the Muslims also say the divine reality, we have not experienced it. وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٌ. There's nothing on it from this reality that is like God. Okay, so keep that in mind. Okay, please know what Islam is about before you come and negate with the Muslims or argue with the Muslims. Because at least we have to know what you guys are about. Because at the end of the day, it's all about comparison, distinction. If you don't know what you're arguing against, don't open your mouth. It's that simple. Okay, don't open if you don't know what you're arguing against. And don't try to proselytize when you have nothing. When all you have is a mystery. There's no difference between you and a polytheist, a Hindu, a Buddhist. Anyone can believe in nonsensical, irrational things, but don't impose it on nobody, because there's no difference between your nonsense and his nonsense. At least Islam provides coherence. It's in line with our God-given rational faculties. If you want to say God can become a man, okay, well, the Hindus believe that their deity can also incarnate into a mystical entity that is physical. So the body, the flesh, is not like ours. It's actually mystical. It's like a superhero, like Superman, or maybe like Captain Marvel, something like that. That's what they believe in. There's no difference. If they believe in this and you believe in God, how would you come to common terms? You can't. If anything, his being is more powerful than your being, because at least his being is not in a human flesh. It's in a flesh that is mystical. Okay, like I don't know, like maybe an angel when he comes down cannot eat and drink. So it doesn't make sense to come to proselytize based on an incoherent foundation to begin with. Muslims should be the only one proselytizing, no one else. Because we have the coherence. That's why William Lane Craig uses Islamic Al-Ghazalian philosophy. Okay, and I'll leave it at that. Peace out. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.